Alright. It's time we sat down and talked about the final chapter in the Herbie franchise, at least for now. Herbie Fully Loaded, which stars Lindsay Lohan, Michael Keaton, and Matt Dillon, and Justin Long. This came out back in 2005 when I was a senior in high school. And I didn't know much about Herbie, and this was around the time I started watching the movies. And I watched this one, and let me tell you, when you, especially, now, when I'm watching through these, you go through all these movies and you get to this one, and such a big difference. Like, the story is as generic as you can think of. Teenage girl, her comes from a family of racers. She wants to race, but they won't let her. She gets Herbie as a college graduation present. And Herbie's a good racing car, but they won't let her race. So she makes up a fake person, say that he is driving, but it's actually her. And then there's a villain, a generic villain who's one of the big race car drivers. And then he, again, once he gets it, and he can't figure out why it's so good, why it beat him in a race, so he sells it to a demolition thing. And then something happens where they're going to lose money, so then she's revealed they're losing money, so she has to race. Her dad finally accepts it. And and she goes again in the big race, and they win, of course. It's your generic plot. It's generic Disney plot, It starts out with something, you can't do this, and by the end, they accept it. It's generic. Lindsay Lohan, this film was used to promote girl power. So you bring in Lindsay Lohan. I understand Lindsay Lohan was a Disney darling at this point, having starred in The Parent Trap, The Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, Freaky Friday. She was big. But she's playing a tomboyish girl. And Lindsay Lohan's not exactly too feminine. She's been through a lot all those years. She's not exactly the perfect pick for this. And her love interest is Justin Long, who I don't mind, but he's just generic love interest. Matt Dillon, as much as I like Matt Dillon, he's generic villain here. Michael Keaton is Michael Keaton, but even he can't save this movie. And you have Breckin Meyer playing Maggie's older brother, and he doesn't do anything. Herbie is the best part of this film, and he barely does anything. And a lot of the big, amazing stuff that Herbie's supposed to do, like we've seen in other films, instead of using the practical effects like we've seen in like the race where he gets cut in half and it's all practical, or he swings around and it's all practical. No, here it's CGI. And yes, the 97 film had CGI in it. But this is almost worse than that CGI. It would have been better if they tried to use practical effects, especially since this went to theaters instead of TV. They could have done something better, but they didn't. And like I said, generic plot, it just doesn't. There's even there's even a part in this film where Trip Murphy, that's Matt Dillon's character, tries to entice Maggie into driving his race car, which she does, and Herbie gets jealous. And they even have a little love interest for Herbie, but it's going anywhere because Maggie says, well, she's a little young for you, don't you think? It's like, really? It's just, and once again, Herbie is somehow at a junkyard. Now, even if the 97 film isn't canon, we know that the last time theatrically where Herbie was in the arms, in the care of Jim Douglas's, well, if you go by the TV series, he was in the arms of Jim Douglas. And Jim would never let him go to a junkyard. He cares for him too much to let him go to a junkyard. So I don't understand why Disney how they could write him being from a junkyard. Jim Douglas, when you know that the last known person to have him was Jim Douglas in the TV series. And Jim Douglas would never let Herbie rot in a junkyard. Forgot the name. In a junkyard. That just never happened. This movie makes me angry. Very angry. If I had this movie, I think I would bust it. But I don't have it. Thank God. But is there anything good about it? Lindsay Lohan's kind of attractive at this point. Not anymore. She looks like... But, you know, it's fine. And Michael Keaton is always a bonus. He's always good in almost everything he does. So he's good. But, I'd pass. If you want to watch good Herbie movies, watch the original 4 and even a 97 film. If you want to do a marathon, get to 97, you know, and then just... And okay, those of you saying that Hank might have left him in a junkyard, even if that's canon, well, I say no. I think, as much, Hank is played by Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell has that nonchalant, no-care attitude. But as much as Hank has that kind of attitude, I think either he would give it back to Jim Douglas for keeping, or give it to his buddy, and his buddy would take care of it. I don't think it would end up in a junkyard. So what do I give as a rating for this film? I'm going to give it a 5. It's decently made. The CGI is terrible and it's generic plot, but I don't think it's terrible. It's watchable, especially if you have kids. I think kids will love it. And that's the point. They wanted to go to kids and stuff. So fine, give it a 5. So what are your thoughts on Herbie Fully Loaded? Let them in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'm Scotty.